The fundamental concept about God is that He is the reconciliation of all contradictions. You have been doing Pratyahara for a very long time, and there are always contradictions in the life. When you move on this path of Dharma, the path of spirituality, you will see a lot of contradictions, and we are always besieged by contradictions in our life. Fortunately, whatever you have been thinking about God, whatever comes to your mind, the foremost of them is the reconciliation of all contradiction, and this is very thankful. In this word, everything exists alongside its opposite. If you remember, I always talk of the night and the day. I always talk of pain and the pleasure. I always talk of birth and the death. So whatever I'm talking of in opposites. And if you really see, everything exists with its opposite. When you ask for the pleasure, you have asked for the pain. When you ask for a night, even if you have not, but you have asked for a day as well. And so goes on with everything. If you ask something good should happen, you're also something good should happen. You have also asked that something bad should happen, even if not asking, but you have asked it. This is the very nature of existence. Not that you are asking it. This is the very nature of existence. Nothing in nature can exist without opposition. Always remember that. If there were no there were no night, there would be no day. If there were no women in the world, there would have been no men in the world. If there were no death, there would be no life. And think about this, that we are always talking about that, we are always trying to do something that so that the death should not come. Think for a moment that if the death is not there in this world, somehow the science has come to that juncture where the science has completely done away with the death. That is the moment when the science will done away with the birth as well. So there are contradictions. If there will be no sorrow, there will be no joy as well. The entire life is formed and connected through opposites. That is why life is a duality. And of course, because of duality, a constant struggle is there. This is the only struggle. Should I take this decision or should I take this decision? Should I marry this person or should I marry that person? Should I give birth to a baby? Should I not give birth to a baby? Should I take this job? Should I take that job? Should I go to this college? Should I go to that college? Should I scold my daughter? Should I not scold my daughter? What should we do? Always contradiction, and this contradiction is a constant struggle. Everything here is based on opposites. Whatever you think, there is opposite there. The moment you make a friend, you begin to create enemies. Always remember that. The moment you love, hatred has begun. There is nothing you can do here without some opposite manifesting alongside it. Buddha always used to say, I do not make friends because I do not want to create enemies. He also used to say that I do not love because I do not want to hate. Life consists of both matter and consciousness. And if you see it like this, consciousness by its very nature is the opposite of matter. And that's all it is there. The matter you see, the consciousness you do not see. The matter is tangible, the consciousness is intangible. The matter you can touch, the consciousness you cannot touch. Exactly opposite to that of the matter. And that is why great thinkers of the East have always accepted this duality, because that is how it is. Even if you do not accept, you cannot escape from it. And which is why they say that the word is Dvait. Dvait is a Sanskrit and a Hindi word as well. It means the realm of duality. And interestingly, modern science discoveries in the West have also started to embrace this dual nature of reality, not just the seekers of the East. Today, science holds that even if we know one entity, its opposite must also exist, even if we do not know about it. It must exist. We may not have discovered it yet, but it does exist. And that is why one of the most fantastic or fascinating scientific discoveries in this regard, and you must have heard of it, is antimatter. Scientists argue that if matter exists, there must also be an opposite form of the matter, which is called as antimatter. Though it has not yet been fully captured, and a lot of work has been going on, and I was actually looking at the Google, and the Google says that, you know, 1 gram of antimatter would have a cost something like $65 trillion. So it is like that. So, but it does, people are talking about it, science is talking about it. Its existence is considered inevitable because everything in the universe is created through opposites. Similarly, when time exists, there must also be anti-time, a force that moves in the opposite direction. Time is moving forward, something is moving backward. So anti-time. If it exists, it would flow backward. In our word, a child is born, then grows into a youth and finally ages. If the entire time would have existed or it exists, then in its domain a person would start as old, become younger, and ultimately return to the childhood, a reversed journey, something like entire time. So these are not just philosophical concepts and ideas. They have also been explored by the physicists, modern physicists. They propose that if time exists, an opposite flow of time must also exist because nothing can exist without its opposite counterpart. Take, for example, a pebble, a stone. Science tells us that just as a stone is a solid object occupying space, there must also be holes in a space. A stone is a solid object, it occupies space, and that's how there's a hole in space as well. Voids such as void, which is acting as opposite of the matter. So these voids have not yet been fully understood, but then Nobel Prize have been awarded on this work as well. If space itself must contain voids, it is difficult to conceptualize that a void within space, there would be a void within a space. But if space is filled, then emptiness must also exist inside of it. And that's how it is. And surprisingly, Mahavira spoke about this concept some 2500 years ago. He said that there is loka. Loka means the manifested world where we live in. There is loka, this word that we are living in. And then there is aloka, the unmanifested word. This unmanifested word is the opposite of the visible one, and Mahavira spoke of it something like 2500 years ago. So if the material world exists, the lok exists, the aloka, you know, the aloka, the entire matter, if we are talking of matter, the entire matter also exists. So this duality governs the world of appearances. But God is beyond appearances. In God, no opposition exists. He is the unity where all contradictions dissolve. He is the unity where all contradictions dissolve. The very nature of opposites, all opposites, disappear in Him. If God had an opposite, an anti-God, then God would merely be a part of this universe. If He had an opposite. But God is beyond the universe. He encompasses both loka and aloka, matter and antimatter, time and anti-time, birth and death. He is the one that includes both. Thus, the first thing to understand about God is that He is totality. He is complete, total. Within Him, there is both creation and destruction. He is both a friend and enemy. He builds and He dissolves. And that is why the duality of this entire earth, you can understood You can understand duality through the God. However, there is a challenge when we use words to describe God. It seems as though we are talking about a person. That becomes a problem because this is what is the limitation of the language. Language has no other way to express this reality. And God is not a person. He is the vast expanse of this energy. And within this infinite energy, all opposites emerge. Because all opposites happen to be inside of this energy. There is nothing beyond the energy. What appears to us as contradictions, day and night, contradictory, are both contained within him. So, if not today, tomorrow, science will also have to accept this truth. Science already acknowledged that reality is dual. One entity always has an opposite. But it will also have to acknowledge that whenever two exist, there has to be a third that connects them. Whenever two exist, because otherwise they won't exist, there has to be a connection. Otherwise, there would be no relation between the two entities. So there has to be a link. There has to be a harmony. There has to be a rhythm that connects the both, that unites the both. And this third element that is connecting, that is uniting, that is harmonizing is the God, the totality, the wholesomeness, where all dualities exist simultaneously. But the problem is, this is what is the limitation of logic. This idea is very difficult to grasp for us because logic works in a very different fashion. I am talking of unifying, I am talking of harmonizing, I am talking of bringing them together. And logic works by breaking the things down. It does not have the capacity to unify. Always remember that. This is the problem of the logic. Logic is like it's like a pair of scissors. It can cut. The pair of scissors can cut, but once it is cut, then it cannot join. That's the problem of a scissor. You try the scissor to join something, you will not succeed. It will create, in fact, more divisions. So that is why in Indian mythology, the deity of logic is Ganesha. Ganesha is the god of logic, deity of logic. God is not the right word. And if you look at the picture of Ganesha, Ganesha is shown riding a mouse. The mouse represents cutting and gnawing away. This is what is a representation. It can only break things apart. That's what a mouse does, rat does. It does not bring things together. So this is what is the symbolic representation of logic. It is very surprising that in India, in all auspicious ceremonies, we must first invoke Lord Ganesha. We must first speak his name. But the reason for this is not what people commonly believe. In ancient times, Ganesha was a troublemaker, obstacle maker. People feared his power of logic. If something is happening, and you are doing some kind of ritual, and if somebody come, let's say a person would come and say, "Why are you doing this? There is no logic behind this. There is this and that," and then he talks of logic. He is creating a troublemaker. A marriage procession is going on, and somebody says, "Why marriage? Marriages are not what it seems to be. Marriages will always end in divorce. The marriages are not good, this and that," and the people won't like it. He is an obstacle maker. And so the people feared the power of logic, because more logical you are, more troublemaker you can be. And of course, the argumentation. So they thought it is best to pray to, to check him in advance, to keep him from interfering. So over time, people have forgotten this reason. And now he is simply worshipped as the harbinger of good fortune. So that's why Hindus worship Ganesha before any auspicious ceremony. Yet at the root, this symbolism remains deeply profound. It's a very profound symbolism. Logic divides. But there must be something that unites. Because if something is dividing, there has to be something that unites. And this unifying force is what God is. And understandably, science relies on logic. Science is an extension of logical reasoning. Therefore, science is analytical. Its methods are based on breaking things apart. So if you give anything to science, it will break it down into smaller and smaller components. If I ask if I ask you, how come there is such a nice smell in rose? So what will you do if you are a scientist, if you are a biologist, if you are a zoologist? What you will do is you will take up, you will take the flower, you will pluck all the leaves, and then you will grind those leaves, and then some chemical will come out, and then you will analyze those chemicals. You will break even those chemicals apart, because there would be so many different chemicals, and then you will say, because of this chemical there is a smell in this rose. Now what you have done, you have come to know that the smell is because of that chemical, but what you have done is you have destroyed the beauty of the rose. You have destroyed the rose. So science, in its pursuit of knowledge, keep dividing matter until it reaches the bottom, or I can say until it reaches the atom, because atom is the bottommost part. By continuously breaking and cutting things down to their smallest parts, dharma or religion, because I use dharma and religion, uh, you know, uh, in the same fashion. Religion is not what I talk about, is not what Christianity is, or Hinduism is, or Islam is. I always use religion in concept to dharma. So, dharma, on the other hand, is beyond logic, it goes beyond the logic. Dharma asserts that by breaking things apart, one can never truly understand the whole. That is the problem. I'm not saying don't break, because we have done lot many discoveries by breaking, but this is the problem of breaking things down may reveal the parts, but how will one ever comprehend the indivisible? You may know the atom, of course you may know the atom, but how will you know the god? So this idea represents two extremes. If you keep breaking things down, you arrive at the atom. If you keep connecting things, you reach God. That is what is the path for a spiritual person. He just keep, you know, keep undividing the things, keep connecting the things. For him, all the opposition goes away. There is no opposition in this world. He's okay with pain, he's okay with pleasure, he's okay with peace, he's okay with disturbance, he's okay with anger, he's okay with, you know, non-anger. He's just assimilating everything into his path, non-dividing. So the meaning of God is the sum total of everything. When you do pratyahara, always remember that you are trying to reach there. When I'm talking about non-conflict in pratyahara, when I'm saying that even if the disturbance is there, don't worry about it. Even if the conflict is there, accept the conflict, accept the disturbance, accept the non-peace, accept the anger, accept whatever is coming into your pratyahara, accept everything. This is what is the sum total of everything, beyond which nothing more can be added. The meaning of atom is the smallest individual part, beyond which nothing can be broken down. Similarly, beyond which nothing can be added, that becomes the God. Thus, the final outcome of science is the atom. While the final outcome of your pratyahara, of your dharma, of your religion, of your spirituality is Paramatma itself, the God itself. Science starts with duality and ends in multiplicity. It keeps dividing and branching out into different fields. Dharma also begins with duality. Religion also begins with duality. But the most important part of religion is that it moves forward towards oneness. Science is moving towards dividing, it is moving towards oneness, towards the whole, unifying. It unifies everything into a single whole, single entity. This is a very basic difference between science and the dharma. The method of religion is synthesis. It is synthesis. It is bringing things together until nothing remains separate in this world. Now, what is happening here? It is very fundamental to our core existence. If you are talking to a person and suddenly you don't like a person, but if you have a feeling of oneness towards everything that this whole world is also encompasses inside of you, no adversary is there. No adversary will stand. All is inside of you. This is the basic basis of the dharma. When everything is united, that completeness is called God. And God is not sitting beyond us. God is not a person but the totality of existence. The totality of existence where all the divisions will dissolve. And with Pratyahara, we are moving towards that. Science, on the other hand, operates through analysis. It operates through breaking down the parts. Therefore, in science, divisions increase. And that is why when we see the world around today, there are so many divisions. When we see the world today, the entire world is anarchic. We are dividing ourselves into different parts. So when we see divisions increase, in religions, divisions should disappear. In dharma, divisions disappear. Science not only breaks objects apart, but if you look at it like this, science itself is breaking apart. If you go back 500 years ago, the word science had a clear meaning. Today it does not. There is no such thing as science anymore. There are physicists, there is physics, there is chemistry, there is biology, there is this and that science. There is no singular science. There are so many sciences today. And if you ask who is the scientist, it is very difficult to answer. Someone may be a biologist, someone may be a physicist, someone may be a chemist, someone may be a pharmacist, someone may be an astronaut engineer. What would you say? But there is no single person who can be called scientist in a general sense. So science has, just like breaking down, it has fragmented itself into countless specialized branches. These branches have become so disconnected that there seem to be no harmony between them. And so this has created greatest difficulties for humanity. If you look at it like this, there is no coordination between different branches of knowledge. A physicist has no idea what is happening in a chemistry. A chemist has no idea what is happening in biology. So even within one discipline, specializations have become extreme, that no individual can fully master an entire field. If you remember in the past, a single doctor could treat all diseases. If you go back 30, 40 years before, we always had a one doctor. We used to call him a family doctor, and he would treat all the diseases. But now today there is no longer a case. People are just running from pillar to post, finding different doctors. If your eyes have a problem, you need a specialist. If your ears have a problem, you need different specialist. If your spleen has a problem, you need different specialist. If your legs have a problem, there is a different specialist. If your stomach has a problem, there is a different specialist, and so many different specialists are there. People are struggling to go to different specialists, and then there is a super specialization as well. There is even a joke in this today that a patient goes to an eye doctor, and the doctor asks which eye is the problem, left or right, because I only treat the left eye. So it might so happen that in the time to come, we have so many different specializations. You go to a doctor and say, I have a problem in my finger. So which finger it is, because there are different doctors for different fingers. This is what is the reality of science. Everything is becoming more and more fragmented. And science, which breaks down everything, has itself been broken into different divisions. As a result, scientists struggle to communicate. It's not that they don't want to do that, but they struggle to communicate across discipline because there are so many different disciplines. One scientist often misunderstood or cannot understand another scientist's work because of this extreme super specialization. There is now a growing fear that different branches of knowledge may become completely disconnected. It has already become, in fact, and it will become more and more. And then there are catastrophic consequences. Don't think there are no consequences. It has already happened in World War II when atomic bombs were developed. Who developed the atomic bombs? Physicists. Physicists were asked about the dangers of nuclear weapon. It's not that they weren't asked. They said there is no major risk. But biologists were never consulted. No one asked them what is the impact or what would be the impact of atomic bombs on the living beings. So when the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, physicists had calculated the physical destruction, but they had not considered the biological consequences. The real horrors emerged later when pregnant women who survived the blast gave birth to children with radiation poisoning. For multiple generations, their descendants would suffer from diseases. They are still suffering from those diseases of radiation poisonings. The deformities are happening, the disabilities are still happening. Had scientists consulted from other fields, they had collaborated with other fields, they might have foreseen these consequences. But because science itself is so fragmented, such interdisciplinary coordination is very rare. So what is the need? The need is for synthesis. Science and logic divide, but there must be something that unites. This is where the dharma or the religion comes in. Science breaks apart reality. Religion brings everything together. Dharma brings everything together. If we continue down the path of excessive specialization, we may reach a point where knowledge itself becomes meaningless, where one branch of science has no awareness of the other. In fact, it has already happened. And that is why religion, with its emphasis on synthesis, remains very crucial. While science keeps dividing, we must also strive to connect, to unify. Unify within the diversity, within the duality. Because without this, the balance of human knowledge will be lost. In fact, I would say we are already getting there. I was reading somewhere that uh, if the temperature of the world goes up, the average temperature of the world goes up by 1.5, more than 1.5 degrees. This is the 1.5 degrees the threshold. If it goes beyond 1.5 degree, the world will come to an end. And now scientists are saying that it has already happened so. And that is why the winters are very warm this year. The summers were very hot. In India, the summer temperature normally hovers around 45 degrees to 48 degrees. But this time, the temperature went to even 53 degrees. So the winters, and today even winters are very hot. So we have changed everything. We are changing very fast. And don't think people did not know. All these big companies, Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, all of these companies, they had the they had the knowledge that this would happen over a period of time, but they bought all the clean technologies, everything. So there is a very clear and present danger to where we are getting at. And that is why in today's world, dharma is the answer. If you ask me, I would say dharma is the real science, the science that unifies. It should unify. Because without the unifying character of the science, this world will have a difficulty existing for a long time. We humans will have a difficulty existing. And look what has happened. This world existed for millions of years. In the last 100 years, we have done so. Because in the last 100 years, science has progressed like anything. Otherwise, it was okay. Now we have brought this planet to such a level where we have completely poisoned this earth by incessantly digging, by incessantly sending the waste materials into the sea, radiations everywhere, polluting the environment, polluting the air. We have come to such a level that the climate scientists are saying, I'm not saying this, but climate scientists are saying this process has become now irreversible. It will get worse and worse. And there is nothing is being done even today. Nobody is talking about this. We are still buying cars, more and more cars, better and better, bigger and bigger.